Episode 181. Children Need Their Mother. Agnes was looking at Alex, hoping he had a solution to her current predicament. Adam and Amy wanted to go see their mother. They were pleading with Agnes to let them see Violet. Alex had a suggestion that he said might help. Children need to be with their mother, Alex began. The bond between mother and child is a tie too strong to cut. No matter if they live here or with Logan, the children will know that you are their great-grandmother. They do not have to live in the old residence to be true Alexanders. Perhaps there is another solution. Go on. Agnes could tell that Alex had a dilemma. He did not agree with Agnes, and he'd always given her wise counsel in the past. So she decided to listen to his opinion. Allow the children to return to their mother and Logan. Send a nanny with them who understands the ways of the Alexanders. As for Logan's relationship with their mother, might I suggest letting nature take its course? The more you oppose his relationship, the more rebellious Logan will become. It would be better to let him find out that the two of them are not suitable. Forces outside of you are working against them as well. Violet and Garrett recently signed an agreement. Logan must be dissatisfied with that. He will tire of her drama sooner or later, and let Violet go. I see. Agnes frowned as she thought about his advice. What Alex said made a lot of sense, and Agnes didn't want to quarrel with her grandson. It was never good when they fought. Logan had always been very stubborn. When he was young, he had often clashed with Agnes. The most serious disagreement the two had ever had was after Logan was kidnapped. When his family had saved him, they brought him home, only to discover he was delirious with fever. For days, while his body battled the fever, Logan had mumbled stories of a little girl who secretly gave him a box of milk. Only then did he have the energy to hold out until his family sent a rescuer. At that time, Logan's father was not in good health, and his mother had started to cheat on him. Agnes was in charge of the family, and she was the one raising Logan. If there was really any truth to his story of a little girl, how could she not investigate who the child was? However, her investigators found no evidence of this girl's existence. The girl was a fever dream, a hallucination, Agnes had told Logan. However, Logan was adamant that the girl had been real. Because of this matter, they couldn't agree. Their conflict lasted for 2 months before it finally calmed down. Agnes and Logan had never mentioned the girl again to one another, so as to avoid another fight. Agnes wanted Logan to be happily married. She didn't want him to repeat the mistakes of his father by marrying the wrong woman. And it wasn't just Violet that she didn't trust. When her husband was still alive, he had told her that he had arranged a child marriage for his grandson. Agnes had rejected the idea outright, and Logan had never been told. If his grandfather, the person Logan had admired most, made this request of him, she knew Logan would have a hard time saying no out of loyalty. Agnes had never asked which family the potential match was from. She didn't want to create any more problems. Agnes sincerely hoped that there wouldn't be some social climbing family knocking on her door in the future. The Alexander family was an old family, and vultures were everywhere. To Agnes, Violet was just another vulture in a long line of vultures. What you are saying makes sense, Alex. Your advice is sound. I do not want any conflicts with Logan, and if I openly oppose Violet, I could just be sending him stubbornly running back into her arms, Agnes conceded. I will listen to you. Agnes stroked the green bracelet on her wrist, thinking that she should find a girl with the right background for her grandson, and let the girl take the initiative to get in touch with Logan. Who would not like a beautiful and enthusiastic young woman? Perhaps another option could cut the cord between her grandson and Violet. Logan and Violet had finally come down to dinner after their time alone upstairs. Logan didn't seem concerned at all as he asked Zoe to reheat their meals, that had long grown cold. However, Violet couldn't meet Zoe's eyes as she served them. Zoe pointedly didn't ask what had taken them so long to come to dinner, and Violet pointedly didn't offer any excuse. While they were eating, Violet asked Logan when the children would be returning. She missed them and hated that she hadn't seen them. It felt like Violet hadn't hugged them in weeks, when it had really only been 2 days. Logan said that there would be a press conference tomorrow. He would bring the children back after he was done, and then he would make a decision based on the situation. Alex and I have spoken. He is making arrangements for the children to formally become a part of the Alexander family. What are your thoughts on this? Logan quietly looked at Violet. But Violet didn't seem to care about what arrangement the Alexander family was making. She only cared about when she could see her children. This was not what Logan had expected. If it was really as grandmother said, that Violet only approached him so she could use her children to trap him, then why wouldn't Violet be excited, or at a bare minimum curious, about this latest development? Agnes recognizing her children's place in the Alexander family would cement Violet's wealth and status. But the woman in front of him seemed completely unconcerned about herself. She only cared about seeing her children. The decision of the Alexander family to acknowledge the children would be announced at the press conference. It was better for their children to live in the Alexander family home, for now, while Violet dealt with the Kingstons. The battle for Violet's inheritance was heating up, and under such circumstances, Violet actually agreed that they should continue to stay with Agnes. Not only would this give Violet time to focus on the issues, but it also made her feel better, knowing Adam and Amy would be safe while under the protection of the Alexander family. However, this did not mean that Violet would give her children up entirely to the Alexander family. I agree that staying with Agnes is the best place for Adam and Amy, temporarily. It doesn't mean I'll agree in the future. I am their mother, and I will not be separated from them, Violet told him. Long as you cooperate, you will be rewarded, Logan said. Condescending way to put it, thought to herself. It made her sound like a pet receiving treats for being a very good girl. But Violet suppressed the distaste the comment had left in her mouth. It wasn't the first time Logan had said something annoying. It wouldn't be the last. Still, Violet wouldn't blindly dance to Logan's tune. She had tricks of her own to get what she wanted. As long as you don't separate the children from me, I will do anything. What? Told him in a soft voice as she looked up at him through her eyelashes and shyly darted her eyes away. She knew men liked this sort of thing. He'd seen Elizabeth pull this move with great success. Violet knew she had more power than Logan thought she did. Came to him. Logan reached out and gently swiped her cheek with his thumb. Really? Anything I want? Asked her, looking at her with heat in his eyes. It actually work? Yes, Violet replied shyly. Logan pulled Violet into his arms. I want to test this, he said huskily, before leaning down and kissing her. The children were his. Woman was also his. And no matter what his grandmother or anyone else said, Logan intended to keep Violet inside. Although the two of them were intimate that night, Logan was a little more gentle. Rare. Violet was still immersed in the memories of their night together when she woke up in the morning. Almost intoxicated when she was with Logan, and was becoming more and more unrestrained. While they often clashed during the day, as lovers they were remarkably in sync, each seeming to know what the other needed. While Violet had little experience with men, she knew instinctively that things were different with Logan. Logan gave her a sense of security. He made her feel safe, and the more secure she felt, the more Violet found herself willing to let go when they were together. She'd even begun to hug him on her own, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Their relationship might have begun as a quid pro quo business transaction, but as it progressed, it turned into something more. Violet figured she might as well enjoy it. Episode 182. Closet of Secrets. Violet was still reveling in memories of her time alone with Logan last night. It had been rather intoxicating. Thinking back now on all they'd done, Violet couldn't help the blush on her cheeks or the grin on her face. Still smiling, she stretched and got out of bed. After a quick shower, she walked into the closet to find something to wear. Closet was really not an accurate way to describe the luxurious room where Logan, and now she, kept their clothes. It was as big as some apartments Violet had lived in. Not only were there racks, closets, and drawers to store clothes in or on, but there was a glam area for hair and makeup, an elevated platform for fittings, and a full lounge area complete with retractable TV, minibar, soft couches, and massage chairs. There were mirrors everywhere and adjustable lighting, and the floor covered in thick, ultra-soft wall-to-wall carpeting. Violet was relieved to see that Zoe hadn't yet gone into the closet to tidy up. Probably because she had still been asleep. Violet was especially grateful this morning for Zoe's thoughtfulness, because the closet was a disaster. It looked like a tornado had gone through it. Violet blushed an even brighter red as memories of what she and Logan had done in this closet flooded her mind. Logan had been especially amorous last night, almost as if he was trying to prove to her, and himself, Violet was his woman. When they had returned to their room after dinner, Violet had gone into the closet to choose a suit for him to wear the next day. Logan had followed her in, and she'd found herself happily at his mercy. She sincerely hoped, with all the money spent to build this closet, they had included soundproofing. She feared she had been quite loud. The media trolls loved to speculate about why Logan wanted her. Honestly, Violet had also been quite puzzled about this herself at first. Now, she helplessly shook her head and smiled. Looking around at all the evidence of just how much Logan did want her, Violet covered her face, waiting for the heat to subside a little. Then she quickly set about cleaning up the room herself. She picked up a cufflink that had fallen on the floor, and after finding its mate, she opened a drawer to find a box to put them in. As she was rummaging around, she saw a sparkle out of the corner of her eye. She picked up the unexpected object. It was a pink crystal hair clip. It was the kind a little girl would wear. It didn't look like a woman's piece. Could it be Amy's? No. Violet didn't think it looked like anything that Amy owned. Clip was a vintage type, popular ages ago when Violet was in school. Violet curiously held the clip in her hand and looked at it more closely. It definitely looked expensive. The hair clip was already old, but because the quality was good, it was still in top condition and had a slight weight in her hand. Just whose was it? Violet bit her lower lip. Could it be Anna's? But looking objectively at the relationship between Logan and Anna, Logan was definitely not the brother who fawned over his little sister. Instead, he was very strict. The atmosphere between them was cordial, but far from warm. Logan wouldn't keep Anna's childhood trinkets. Logan was more likely to discipline his sister than dote on her. So strange. She took a photo of the hair clip with phone. Somehow it felt familiar. She remembered feeling the same way when she first faced Logan. This feeling felt like it was actually a hint, a whispered attempt to remind her of things long forgotten in her memory. But what would a hair clip have to do with Logan? Strange. Maybe there would be other clues. Violet looked at the hair clip one last time. She carefully put it away and then found the jewelry box for the cufflinks. Violet endured her blush and continued to clean up the closet. Logan's smell was everywhere, covering her whole body too. She had grown used to staying in Logan's bedroom. She'd felt uncomfortable and uneasy in the beginning, but now she would go in and out of his room freely. Violet had even picked a bouquet of white roses from outside and arranged them in a vase by the window. Then she'd open the window to let in the fresh breeze. When Logan had noticed, he knew that it had been Violet who had done these, so he just curled his lips and said nothing. Violet just took it that he acquiesced. Just as she'd grown used to sleeping in his room, she now kept her clothes in Logan's closet as well. Not that Violet ever went shopping. New clothes were sent over by Tom, Logan's stylist and friend, frequently. Most of the clothing brands were associated with Smith Group in one way or the other. All were the best money could buy, and Violet didn't want to think about what her clothes cost Logan. From the first day he brought Violet here, Logan had begun to infiltrate more and more of Violet's world. Even her body had been stained with Logan's scent, branded with his mark, announcing to others that she was his. Logan had always been so overbearing. Although Violet had gotten used to it and accepted it, it was undeniable that Logan had used his power to bring Violet into his home, and now keep her there. Noah was still opposed to Violet living in Logan's home. Agnes was doing everything in her power to drive Violet and Logan apart. And then there was the fact that the whole Kingston family was working against them, not to mention the relentless media coverage of their relationship. Still, Logan wanted Violet to be there. She remained. That didn't mean Violet would just do whatever Logan wanted. Noah had told Violet from the beginning not to spoil Logan. If she wanted to resist, she should resist. But then Noah did not know that part of the reason Violet signed her agreement with Logan was that she did not want to burden him and Haley. She'd even been trying to repay her friend's generosity by asking Logan to help Haley and Noah's careers as much as he could. Because he knew they were both very smart and qualified, Logan had indeed been helping her friends. He had referred many A-list clients in need of legal services to Noah. Haley was appointed as the executive in charge of music production for Laurie Group and Smith. She would be the main liaison between the two companies. Today, Haley would be arriving back in Los Angeles. They had not seen Haley for a few days, and Violet was excited to have dinner with her and Noah. Violet also really wanted to tell her two best friends about Logan being Adam and Amy's father. Violet called Noah to ask when they would be leaving to pick up Haley. He said that he was already on his way and that he would pick her up at Logan's house shortly. The two of them would go to the airport together. Violet hung up the phone and changed her clothes. She took her handbag and went downstairs to wait. She told Zoe and Lee where she was going. This had been Violet's habit since she was young. She would always tell people where she went. It had helped her avoid disaster when she was young and live safely until now. Thus, the habit never left. Lee always treated Violet with formal courtesy, but Zoe was much more friendly. They often chatted while Zoe worked. Violet always offered to help her, and Zoe always refused to let her lift a finger. She told Violet while she was waiting for Noah to pick her up that Logan had instructed them to prepare extra food for tonight in case Noah and Haley stayed for dinner later. We were go out. Was Logan planning to come home early to eat with us? Violet asked her. I don't know. He didn't say. Zoe smiled, then added, You can call him and ask. He'll always take your call. Zoe had always been quite fond of her boss. He was a strict but fair employer. Logan was always respectful to his and didn't treat them just like the hired help many of his class did. So as she advised Miss Kingston now that Mr. Alexander would be happy to hear from her, she meant it. In all the years she'd known him, Zoe had never seen Mr. Alexander smile as much as he did now. Zoe knew that he was smiling because of Violet. Episode 184. Trouble in Paradise. Violet had just spotted Lionel through the window of the restaurant where she was dining with Noah. And Lionel wasn't alone. He was with Charles and a pregnant woman who appeared to be Charles's mistress. What was he up to? Violet wondered. She had stopped trusting Lionel's actions were innocent the day she discovered he had left her when she needed him the most, for Chloe. Now looking back, all Violet could think was, she dodged a bullet with that one. Is that Lionel? Noah had also spotted him. He wasn't a fan of Lionel's for obvious reasons, and he knew Logan was suspicious of him as well. Noah, let's pretend we didn't see them. Violet took a sip of her ginger ale. She hadn't forgotten the commotion she'd caused last time she'd met up with Lionel at a restaurant. Violet had enough to think about right now. No sense in antagonizing the already unstable Chloe. The irony was not lost on Violet, that Chloe seemed to always be worried that Violet was going to steal Lionel away from her, when it was Chloe who had originally stolen Lionel from Violet. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Not that Violet would ever in a million years forgive Lionel and take him back. Lionel always seems like he is secretly unhappy, that his relationship with Chloe is about social climbing, not affection. Of course, if he was to betray Chloe, it would serve her right after what she did to you, Noah said. Noah knew many men were like Lionel, sacrificing a loving one for one that would bring them greater status and wealth. Any of the Kingston women would be caught by a man like Lionel. Noah was just glad, given Lionel's true character, that it was ultimately Chloe, not Violet, that had caught him. Noah looked across the table at Violet's expression. He wondered if his friend was feeling sad. If Violet was feeling sad about Lionel, Noah hoped it was a sad he had betrayed her feeling, not a sad she had lost him feeling. But Noah needn't have worried, as Violet had long ago stopped caring about Lionel. Her days with him were over and done with. Violet was quiet because she was wondering why Lionel was here with Charles Kingston and a pregnant woman. What exactly was going on? And why was Lionel involved? Fortunately, money could help answer any questions. Violet murmured a few words to their server when he came over to their table with an appetizer. He nodded to her and slipped away. She should have a few clues soon about what Charles and Lionel were up to. A big fat tip was a great way to get information. Noah and Violet chatted as they ate. Violet asked him what business Logan had sent him overseas to handle. Noah was purposefully vague when he answered Violet. No need to rile her up by letting her know that Logan had sent Noah out of the country to get rid of him for a few days. Noah wasn't stupid. Once he'd seen the quote-unquote legal matters he was supposed to be handling for Logan, he had deduced that this was what Logan was really up to. Noah knew Logan was jealous of his friendship with Violet. Noah was used to Logan, though. He had known Logan for a long time, and he did actually like the guy. Not his relationship with Violet. However, Noah would not fawn over Logan just because he was Logan Alexander, CEO of Smith Group. He respected Logan because of his abilities, not his position. How has Logan been treating you? I could tell he was pretty upset with you about your Lorry Group contract, Noah asked Violet as he took a sip of his drink. Violet waved her hand dismissively as she swallowed a bite, then said, "Oh, he's fine. Logan just has a bad temper. I'm used to it." "Are you actually defending him?" Noah asked her, a bit surprised. "No, it's just the truth," Violet replied with a shrug. "Well, it's true that Logan has a bad temper," Noah said dryly. Then, changing the subject, he asked her, "Are you really not going to the press conference tomorrow?" "No, it's none of my business." Violet didn't add that she was upset that Logan would be attending the press conference with Elizabeth. Violet couldn't understand why Logan was still attending with her, after it appeared Elizabeth had been lying to him all this time. Violet could never pretend to be nice to that woman, and she didn't like that Logan was going with her. She also didn't tell Noah that she sometimes feared Logan actually still cared about Elizabeth. Their server returned at that moment and discreetly leaned in and spoke in a low voice to Violet. She listened, then thanked him while handing him some folded bills. The server nodded his head and left. Well, Violet thought to herself, that had been money well spent. Violet opened her eyes wide in wonder as she told Noah with a little smirk, "It seems like there is trouble in paradise. All is apparently not well in my dear aunt and uncle's marriage. And make use of this when the time comes. Tell Logan about this later. He's been investigating Lionel recently," added. Investigating Lionel? Violet bit the corner of her mouth and wondered what Logan was up to. She wanted to trust Logan in her fight with the Kingstons. He'd said he'd remain neutral. Plus, would he help the Kingstons given he now knew they had lied to him? Violet still wasn't sure how much to share with Logan about this. "Look, I think you can tell Logan, but ultimately it is still up to you to decide. You know, I am with you in the fight no matter what you do. You're not alone. You don't need to worry over all this by yourself." Noah affectionately touched Violet's hand to reassure her. He touched her hand only briefly. His touch was long enough to be captured by crafty eyes in the corner of the restaurant. The press conference was rapidly approaching. Grandmother had already discussed it with Logan, and he knew about her intentions with regards to the children. Logan did not want to bring Violet to the press conference, or she would get too emotional. If someone with ulterior motives provoked Violet, she would be questioned on the spot. Logan didn't want her to suffer. After all, Violet had raised Adam and Amy alone for so many years. Now that they were becoming acknowledged members of the Alexander family, Violet was bound to feel emotional. He didn't want reporters pestering her. Logan did not think images of Violet tearing up were necessary or constructive. The public would speculate that the two of them had been together for a while now, heard about the children. Logan knew speculation like this would cause his grandmother to feel even more disgusted by Violet, considering what Agnes believed she had done. He could not explain why, but Logan didn't want his grandmother to hate Violet. After all, this was Logan's life. Tired of justifying his wishes, he wanted to spend time with the children, and he wanted their mother in his life too. He hoped his grandmother would eventually come to understand him. Not woman could make him feel the way Violet made him feel. Elizabeth had shown up at Logan's office, pestering him to attend the press conference with her. Because today was about the collaboration between the Kingstons and the Alexanders, it would be natural for them to attend together, so Logan had agreed for that reason. Not because he wanted to go with Elizabeth, though. He had given the Kingston family enough of his time and energy. He had tried to make things work with Elizabeth because of their shared history, but now knowing that it had been Violet, not Elizabeth, that night 4 years ago, he no longer wanted to try and make things work with her. He hoped Elizabeth would realize this quickly so he could walk away and start his new life. If Garrett was sincere, Logan thought that Elizabeth and his brother might actually suit each other. In any case, Garrett's feelings for Anna were definitely not real. He reckoned that he just wanted to anger Logan by toying with his sister. However, Elizabeth being a big star helped the story group, so Garrett might really consider it. Furthermore, Elizabeth had been his woman to the outside world, and Garrett loved steal Logan's things. Logan wanted to see how Garrett reacted when he brought Elizabeth to the press conference today. Out of gentlemanly habit, Logan had asked Tom to prepare Elizabeth a new gown for the press event. After Elizabeth had put it on, she'd immediately taken a photo and posted it to her Instagram, making sure everyone knew it was Logan who had sent it to her. Almost immediately, her post was flooded with both flattering and unflattering comments. However, to Elizabeth's delight, the unflattering comments were not actually about her. The trolls instead were coming for Violet. The negative comments said that Elizabeth was Logan's true and proper girlfriend, and that Violet, just his cheap side piece. Elizabeth made sure to like every single negative comment about Violet. Episode 185. Team Elizabeth versus Team Violet. An online war was breaking out. Team Elizabeth versus Team Violet. Logan had sent Elizabeth a dress to wear to today's press conference, and she'd promptly posted a picture of herself in it, tagging Logan. Logan had only sent her the dress out of habit and politeness. They would be attending today's event together in support of their family's latest business collaboration. Elizabeth hadn't cared why, instead of seizing on the gift as a sign that not all was lost between them. Now Elizabeth's online fan base and Violet's new fans were engaging in a comment war over who was the best woman for Logan. First, Team Elizabeth had come out in force to support their idol. They had flooded her comment section to say how amazing she looked in Logan's dress, with many hearts and fire emojis added on for emphasis. Comments calling her Logan's first love and his one true girlfriend flooded her feed. At the same time they were praising Elizabeth, her fans simultaneously began to attack Violet. They pulled out all of their typical insults of Violet, calling her a gold digger, traitor, etc. Elizabeth was thrilled, of course, by her fan base's reaction. She was busy liking and sharing her fans' many negative comments about Violet, when Elizabeth began to notice a new wave of comments coming in. New posters were taking to her comment section, and they were decidedly not Team Elizabeth. She was called a talentless hack that had a successful career only because of Logan's deep pockets. They were calling her the queen of false marketing, as she was all talk and no substance. Violet, they said, had actual talent and was the real deal, so of course Logan would pick her over Elizabeth. They claimed it didn't matter what Violet wore, as she would always be still more beautiful than Elizabeth. In the blink of an eye, the comment section exploded. Team Elizabeth went from playing offense to defense, as it seemed there was now a Team Violet. The more the two sides quarreled, the fiercer the battle became. Elizabeth was, of course, infuriated by this new wave of negative comments. She had her assistant, Anita, working overtime, counter-posting each time someone posted something negative about her boss. Elizabeth was flustered and exasperated. Unlike Elizabeth, the Lori Group publicists were thrilled by all the attention Violet was garnering online. Her fan base was growing, and she hadn't even debuted yet. The Lori Group's PR department believed Violet's notoriety could only benefit the promotion of the song she was going to perform for Jay Fannin. The publicists firmly believed the old saying, there was no such thing as bad publicity. So rather than trying to stop the war of comments, Garrett's PR people wanted to use the exposure Violet was getting to promote her recently signed contract with Lori Group. The Lori Group publicist was eager for Violet to open her own social media accounts so she could interact with her followers. Garrett thought of Violet's character and knew that she would definitely not want to join social media. Instead, he told his assistant to get one of Lori Group's social media managers to manage an account on behalf of Violet. While it wouldn't be the personal account the publicists wanted, it would give his people a way to promote Violet through social media. As soon as Lori Group opened up an Instagram account for Violet, her number of followers exceeded all expectations. Violet's account had hundreds, thousands of followers after only 5 minutes. Seeing this overwhelming reaction, Garrett immediately asked his stylist to prepare a dress. He wanted it to be couture, fresh off the runway. Garrett had decided to take his own date to the press conference. Violet, in a dress he had personally procured for her. Garrett smiled to himself as he said under his breath, "Game on, mother." After that, Garrett called Elizabeth. When Elizabeth picked up, Garrett greeted her by saying, "I see you're choosing my brother over me again. How quickly I'm forgotten." Mr. Gardner, don't say that. This is a good day for the Smith Group and Kingston Group. It's only natural that I would accompany Logan to the press conference, Elizabeth said in a reserved tone. Oh, so he's Logan, but I'm now Mr. Gardner. Is that how you're playing this? Garrett lazily leaned back in his chair with his long legs crossed on the desk. Then what does Mr. Gardner want me to call him? Elizabeth asked primly. Philly had said that having more friends meant having more options. Garrett was very attentive to her, and Elizabeth liked his attention. She didn't want to lose that. Besides, she needed to ask Garrett for help with something today. Rather than bothering to reply, the only response Garrett gave Elizabeth was ambiguous laughter coming through the earpiece. This panicked Elizabeth a bit, and she called out, Garrett? Garrett, can you hear me? Oh, so now I'm Garrett again, he replied. Can't forget my name, lest you need to call me in the future because you need my help. Perhaps I'll be happy to oblige. Or perhaps not. Oh, Garrett, you are being very ungentlemanly about all this, Elizabeth said, pretending to be hurt. She was secretly pleased that Garrett seemed upset. Was he jealous? Hopefully, Logan would find out and they would fight over her, Violet long forgotten. Elizabeth, of course, had no idea what Garrett was really thinking. He did not know that Violet would now be attending today's event with Garrett, or that a dress was being rushed over to Violet as they spoke. No, I'm not Logan. I don't have any gentlemanly demeanor, especially with you choosing to attend today's event with Logan instead of me, Garrett said, seemingly hurt. I have an idea, Elizabeth said suddenly, as if a thought was just occurring to her. Why don't you invite Violet to attend today's press conference with you? I heard she may not be going. I hope she's all right. Oh? Garrett raised his eyebrows with amusement. What was Elizabeth up to now? He knew she was pretending, and that this idea hadn't just occurred to her. Garrett knew what a terrible actress Elizabeth was. Yes, I really want to see her. If you bring Violet, then I can rest assured all is well, Elizabeth said, trying to sound sincere. Why haven't you just checked in on her yourself? Are you not welcome in Logan's home? Garrett asked, then shook his head. It's about something else. She wanted to accompany Logan to the press conference, even though she wasn't even allowed in his home. Elizabeth just didn't get it. Logan didn't want her. Elizabeth was a bit flustered by his question. No, Logan said it's not convenient right now for him to have visitors. I think so too. It would make Violet uncomfortable. Matter if I feel wronged. I have to do what's best for my cousin. How very considerate of you, Elizabeth. You are truly selfless. Garrett had to bite the side of his mouth to be able to say that without laughing. Elizabeth had tried her best to sound concerned about Violet, but Garrett wasn't buying it. However, he agreed to Elizabeth's request one by one and expressed that he would try his best to get Violet to attend the event. Remembering Anna had wanted to go with him after Garrett ended his call with Elizabeth, he texted Anna, rejecting her invitation, but inviting her to still attend the press event with friends. Then, Garrett called Violet. Initially, Violet didn't want to go, but then she'd felt a bit guilty. Garrett had helped her out a few times recently, so Violet changed her mind and agreed to accompany Garrett. She knew Logan wouldn't be happy with her, but this event was for her new job. She decided Logan would just have to get used to her being around Garrett as she fulfilled her contractual obligations with Laurie Group. He really had no choice in the matter. But Violet decided not to tell Logan ahead of time. Hopefully, when Logan saw that her showing up to the press conference with Garrett was really no big deal, he'd be fine with it. Logan was most certainly not fine with Violet showing up at the press conference with Garrett. Elizabeth had felt Logan's quiet fury from the moment he saw Garrett and Violet enter the room. Elizabeth kept suggesting that they find her father so that Charles and Logan could talk about future joint ventures. He didn't even seem to hear her. Logan was way too distracted, by the sight of his woman on his brother's arm. Episode 183. Is that Lionel? Violet's face was extremely red. Zoe had told her to call Logan to ask him about his dinner plans. She'd said this with a knowing smile because she knew he'd always take Violet's call. I'm not asking him. I don't want to bother him at work. Violet felt like she had spent all day blushing lately. Luckily, Noah arrived at that moment, so she quickly said goodbye to Zoe and ran outside. They were going to pick up Haley at LAX. After hopping in Noah's car and a round of greetings, Haley told Noah and Violet that, unfortunately, she wouldn't be able to join them for dinner. Haley was in a rush. While she was overseas, Garrett had called her and told her she needed to manage the production of their new film's theme song and simultaneously work with Smith Group to make sure that everything ran smoothly. Logan had specifically asked that Haley run point on the project, which was flattering but overwhelming. Violet, I know you must have said something to Logan, otherwise he wouldn't have given me this chance, Haley said. Yes, but you have the talent. I just made sure he paid attention, Violet replied with a smile. You can have the talent, but you don't always get the chance. So thank you, Violet. Haley hugged her tightly. But unfortunately, I can't linger and eat with you guys. I have to hurry into the office and do the prep work for tomorrow's press conference. The busier you are, the more you can do. And you can do a lot, Noah said and smiled at Haley. Didn't you tell me not too long ago that your career was the most important thing right now? Haley asked him while arching one brow. Well, I regret it now. I take it back. I should still enjoy life. Noah shrugged his shoulders. He thought it was a pity that the three of them could not have dinner tonight. After this press conference is over, I promise we will meet for a nice, long, boozy meal and catch up. It'll be my treat, Haley said with a grin. Haley did not lack money. Ever since Violet and Logan had started living together, Lori Group had been offering her more and better opportunities. Haley felt it was pretty strange. After all, Garrett and Logan were not on good terms. Haley figured that her being given more responsibility must be at Logan's request and Violet's suggestion. Haley was determined to protect Violet. She was worried that Adam and Amy's father would come looking for them one day. She hoped, if that ever happened, Logan would protect Violet, given their arrangement. But you never knew how someone would react. Because Haley was in a rush, Violet did not have the chance to tell her friends the identity of her children's father. She also didn't dare bring up that Adam and Amy were currently staying with their great-grandmother in the old residence. With Haley's hot temper, she would probably rush over there to snatch the children back. If Agnes and Haley got into it, there would be some serious fireworks. Anyway, telling her friends would have to wait a little longer. After all, even Violet was still having trouble digesting the news. Who would have thought that such a thing would ever happen to her? Noah thought that Chloe had schemed against her. Violet was going to need Noah's help figuring out who in the Kingston family knew what and when. She needed to know how deep the deception went. After dropping Haley off at her home, Noah and Violet decided they would still go out to eat together. Violet had already told Zoe she wouldn't be home for dinner, and she didn't want to suddenly bug the staff by asking them to cook. Zoe was always kind, but Lee always looked as if she was dissatisfied. Violet would not know for a long time that Lee was one of Agnes's people. Noah asked her where she wanted to eat. Violet had heard from Logan that there was a restaurant with very delicious crepes and quiches. In the past, when she was down, her grandfather would make her crepes personally, so she suggested they go there. Noah had previously dined there with a client and said it was delicious, so they headed there. After about 10 minutes, he parked near the restaurant. It was a very wide parking lot. The restaurant was on the rooftop of the adjacent building. Noah and Violet got out of the car and took the elevator. The environment was more charming than expected, given the rather industrial building. They were seated near a huge glass window. Violet, who had not been out to eat for a long time, smiled with pleasure and turned to look through the window at the setting sun. Just then, Violet happened to see a man parking his car. That Lionel? She wondered. The man got out of his car and then walked around to the passenger side door to help a woman out of the car. Violet could now see clearly that the man was indeed Lionel, and that the woman's belly was protruding as she awkwardly exited the vehicle. The woman, pregnant. This was interesting, Violet thought. Weren't Lionel and Chloe about to be married? What was Lionel doing with this pregnant woman? Violet soon had her answer when she saw another car pull up into the spot beside Lionel's car. Her Uncle Charles then exited the vehicle. Lionel and the pregnant woman had stopped to wait for him. Charles walked up to the pregnant woman and gave her a kiss and a hug. Then the woman took Charles's proffered arm. Violet wondered if her uncle finally going to get the male heir he had always so desperately wanted. Miranda wouldn't have kept trying for another pregnancy after giving birth to her 2 daughters if Charles hadn't been desperate for a son. He figured the only way to ensure he inherited the business over Violet's father, Richard, was to have a male heir. But another pregnancy had never happened. Charles and Miranda eventually found out the shocking news that Kenneth was going to leave the estate to Violet. It turned out that her grandfather didn't care whether his heir was male or female. He believed women were as capable as men. Ultimately, Charles and Miranda had still been disappointed, as Kenneth had chosen Violet as his heir over their own daughters. Of course, Miranda had done nothing to prepare her daughters for a leadership role. She'd even tried to convince a young Violet that marriage was the only acceptable path for a well-bred young lady. Why do girls need to read so many books? The most important thing, catching a man, Violet. Marry a capable man and enjoy a life of luxury and wealth. Listen to your Aunt Miranda. I know what I'm talking about. Miranda's words still rang in Violet's ears. Violet had believed her aunt back then. Now Violet was dead by her past stupidity. Violet had learned the hard way never to believe anything that came from her Aunt Miranda's mouth. Episode 186. No trouble at all. When Garrett and Violet arrived at the press conference together, it caused quite a stir. But Violet didn't seem to notice. When she saw Logan, she even smiled and nodded, as if they were just casual friends greeting each other. It was as if her relationship with Logan was just a simple friendship, and that she wasn't actually his woman. Logan's expression was stone cold when he locked eyes with Violet. He did not look pleased. He did not even care about the cameras recording his reaction. In fact, he did not care about anyone else in the room except Violet. No one could force him to smile. If he looked pissed off, then so be it. There was no way he could be happy watching his woman being escorted around the room by his brother. People were whispering and pointing at the 3 of them. Logan had to suppress his urge to throw Violet over his shoulder and carry her home. Not long after Violet's arrival, Agnes arrived with Adam and Amy. As soon as she entered the hall, a crowd formed around her. Agnes didn't usually attend such occasions, so people naturally wondered why she was choosing to honor the Kingston family with her presence now. Miranda initially was honored by such an unexpected guest, and quickly started to walk over to greet Agnes. However, when she saw that Adam and Amy were with Agnes, Miranda's step faltered. Why were the children here? She wondered as a chill went down her spine. The 2 little bastards were dressed up in designer children's clothes. They looked like a little prince and princess. Even worse, Agnes, who was the biggest shrew Miranda had ever met, was positively beaming in the children's presence. For their part, Adam and Amy seemed as comfortable with Agnes as she was with them. What was going on? Could Agnes just be using the children as a means by which to control Violet? Otherwise, how could that woman be so agreeable? Miranda knew what Agnes had been told about Violet after all. The Kingstons had been the one to feed Alex the false information. Even the matter of sending people to wreck the car of that tiresome butler hadn't caused any waves for the Kingstons. Although they did not manage to kill the old man, he was in a coma, so at least he wouldn't be ratting them out anytime soon. His coma had bought Miranda some time. There was still time to fix things. But now those two little brats were here with Agnes for some reason. Miranda calmed herself. Then she blasted a fake smile and finished walking over to Agnes to greet her. Miranda put on the gentle face of a grandmother as she greeted the twins. But when Adam scowled at her in greeting, and then Amy instinctively tucked herself into Agnes's side while hiding her wrist behind her back, all Miranda could do was not scream at the two little bastards. But she held herself in check. The Kingstons could not have any conflict with the Alexander family, or else the press conference would be in vain. Agnes, it seems that you and the children have become great friends. How delightful. Miranda smiled at the Alexander matriarch while thinking this was anything but delightful. Yes, I've become quite fond of them, even in such a short amount of time. They are so very polite and friendly. Smart. I have enjoyed getting to know them so very much, Agnes smiled. Agnes saw through Miranda's act. She didn't like Miranda any more than Miranda liked her. Agnes and the children were accompanied by a small army of assistants and bodyguards. They were there to see to the children's care and safety. Having greeted Miranda, Agnes now turned her attention back to the twins. My dears, you must stay with your great-grandmother. Don't wander off. If you need anything, remember to tell Alex or Bobby, Agnes instructed. Bobby was Mary's son. After graduating from university, he opened a security company. Actually, the biggest shareholder behind this was Agnes. Therefore, Bobby was seeing personally to Adam and Amy's security. Some whispers were starting to spread among the attendees who the children with old Mrs. Alexander were. She normally shunned these types of events. Were the children the reason Agnes had come today? Why were the children with her? Members of the press were starting to wonder there was going to be more announced at this press conference than they had originally been told. Haley had been running around seeing all the last-minute details of the event when she heard a small commotion and saw that Violet and Garrett had just entered the room together. They had immediately been surrounded by the media. Haley was surprised when she saw Violet, as she had thought her friend had told her she wasn't coming today. But if Haley was surprised to see Violet with Garrett, she was shocked when she saw Agnes Alexander enter the room with Adam and Amy. What were they doing here? And why were they with Logan's grandmother? What was going on? A bit uneasy, Haley did not immediately go up to greet the children. She wasn't scared of Agnes. Haley didn't scare easily. She was just a bit worried about Violet's situation. When the crowd around Agnes diminished a bit, Haley finally walked over to the twins to say hello. Adam? Me? Haley waved at them as she approached. When the children saw her, they were instantly all smiles. Amy waved excitedly, then ran up to hug her, while Haley and Adam exchanged high fives. Then Amy introduced Haley to her great-grandmother. This is great-grandmother. I like her. She's the bestest, Amy told Agnes. Had Amy called great-grandmother? Now Haley was even more shocked and curious about what was going on. Is that so? Agnes said, turning to Haley. She politely introduced herself. I don't believe we've met. I'm Agnes Alexander. It's nice to meet you. I'm Haley St. James. Haley was polite, but curious. Violet is also here today. I hope the children haven't been giving you any trouble. It's very kind of you to look after them for Violet. The children of the Alexander family are no trouble at all. A great-grandmother is always happy to help. Agnes did not have a bad impression of Haley. She knew of Haley, although this was the first time they'd met. She had the reputation as a woman who relied on her own abilities to make a living, and was known to be quick on her feet. Her family background was also good, and she did not need to work, but she still chose to do so. Because of these things, Agnes was polite and friendly to Haley. She would also not hold it against Haley if she was Violet's good friend. Agnes continued, I didn't know that I could like to so much. Haley was a little surprised. It was said that Agnes had always been a traditional, rich-old bird with high standards. Ordinary people did not enter her eyes, and her disgust towards Violet was written on her face. Why was her attitude towards Adam and Amy so completely different? Adam and Amy are so cute. It would be hard not to like them, Haley replied politely. Alex bent down and said something to Agnes. Before Haley and the two children finished making faces, someone came to invite them to take their seats. I can watch the children now if you'd like to take your seat. It's no trouble at all, Haley offered. Haley was very curious. She really wanted to ask what exactly was happening. She wanted to bring the two children to the side and wait for Violet to come over so she could ask her. Thank you, but there's no need, Miss St. James. Adam and Amy should follow me. You still have things to do, so we will not trouble you. Alex nodded politely, turned around, and walked with Agnes, Adam, and Amy to their seats. The front row. Haley watched them walk away, still in shock. Needed to know what was happening. Something big was going on, but Haley didn't understand what. She just knew if she didn't talk to Violet right now, she was going to explode with curiosity. Haley hastily opened her phone to text Violet. Haley typed, just saw Adam and Amy with Agnes Alexander, who they called great-grandmother. Violet, what the hell is going on? Episode 187. What are you doing here? Adam and Amy turned around and waved at Haley as they walked away with Agnes Alexander. The children had called Agnes great-grandmother, much to Haley's shock. They didn't show any signs of reluctance. Obviously, the twins weren't being forced to do anything. They seemed as comfortable with Agnes as they are with her. Haley had only been out of town a short time. How had Adam and Amy become the children of the Alexander family in such a short amount of time? Haley did not know what had exactly happened, but she knew she needed to talk to Violet, like, now. She texted Violet but got no reply. Haley was about to call Noah, but a staffer came running up to her to tell her Garrett needed her to take her place quickly. The press conference was about to begin. Haley had no choice but to take her position. She kept glancing at Agnes and the twins curiously. What the hell are you doing here? Violet had just come out of the ladies' room and Logan had ambushed her before she could return to Garrett's side. Logan pulled Violet into a corner and turned her to face him with a scowl. Logan was furious with Violet. He couldn't believe she had come to the press conference against his wishes, but even more unbelievable that she had come with his brother. Logan wondered what Violet was trying to accomplish by so openly defying him. Lately, he had felt that they were making progress. Violet seemed to be reciprocating his attention, and she would even instigate affection with him. But seeing her here, today, Logan was worried that deep down, she did not take him seriously. Was Violet playing him? Why did you come here today? And why did you come him? Logan coldly stared into Violet's eyes. Her cheeks were flushed, slightly red, and her eyes were sparkling. She smiled up at him, seemingly completely unaware he was angry. Garrett invited me. He's helping me out, and I have a contract with him to attend promotional events. It seemed appropriate that I say yes when he asked. It's no big deal. Violet shrugged her shoulders at Logan and took a sip of the drink in her hand. She really didn't seem to see the issue here, Logan realized. Logan wasn't backing down, though. He was livid with her. You didn't need to come to this particular event, Logan countered, replying to her through gritted teeth. This press conference isn't about the theme song. You have no legally binding reason to be here. My brother asked you to join him today just to get under my skin. Don't you see that? I distinctly asked you to stay away, and you have openly defied me. This woman was really heedless. Logan had already thought it through, and had felt it would be best if Violet stayed home. He thought it would be the best thing for her. He wasn't being a tyrant. He had been trying to protect her. And yet, here she was, strutting around as if nothing was wrong, looking gorgeous and unconcerned in a dress he knew Garrett must have bought her. What did you promise me yesterday? Logan asked her. I didn't promise you anything. I just said I wasn't going to come. And then I changed my mind. Violet looked up at him, defiantly, then took another sip of the drink in her hand. Taking note of the drink Violet was sipping, Logan narrowed his eyes suspiciously at her. Have you been drinking? You must be drunk to not understand the problem with you being here, Logan whispered to Violet. Really, Logan? I don't know why you are even standing here arguing with me about this. Shouldn't you be working the room with your date? Violet whispered loudly back at him, waving her arm around the room clumsily. Violet's drink loshed into her wrist. Where's Kingston anyway? She must be looking for you. I'm speaking to the Miss Kingston I want to be speaking to right now, Logan replied through gritted teeth. Though angry that he laughed, you are being quite bold, Miss Kingston. You have been drinking, haven't you? How many of those have you had? What is that in your hand, a Long Island iced tea? Drinking? Only then did Violet clearly see that Logan's face was dark. He seemed really angry, she realized. She looked down at the drink in her hand. The hotel ballroom where the press conference was being held was quite warm, and her throat had grown dry from talking to so many people. Violet had wanted something to drink to soothe her coat. The iced tea had been refreshing and tasted quite yummy. She'd had a couple of glasses of it. Was it actually a cocktail? Violet wasn't much of a drinker. Other than the occasional glass of wine with dinner, she rarely indulged. Logan looked closer at the tea-colored drink Violet was holding. He took the glass out of her hand and sniffed it. He winced at the smell. Her drink was not only alcoholic, it was apparently quite a strong cocktail, given the distinct liquor smell coming off it. Unless someone wanted the press drunk at today's event, they should not be serving these. Who exactly gave it to Violet? Logan thought. This was a press conference. Why was there hard liquor available to guests? He wanted to call someone to ask, but he saw Violet unsteadily roll her eyes at him and start heading back towards the restroom she had exited only a short time ago. She probably needed to go to the bathroom again. Throw up. Logan ran his hand through his hair in exasperation. He looked around to find Corey or Drake. He saw them on the other side of the room, surrounded by members of the press. The presentation was scheduled to begin soon. Logan really didn't have time to follow Violet and take care of her. However, there was no way he could leave her alone. She could become sick from the alcohol or, worst case scenario, well, she had been kidnapped in the past. Better not to repeat prior mistakes. Frustrated, Logan did a quick scan of the room and spotted Anna in the crowd. She wasn't alone, but following behind Garrett like a lost puppy looking for a morsel of attention. There were clearly many friends and onlookers present, but his sister could just not control herself when it came to Logan's half-brother. Logan immediately grabbed a passing server and asked them to escort Anna over to him. Logan glanced at his watch as he waited for the server to retrieve Anna. He realized he didn't have much time. The lights in the ballroom were flashing, and the music had changed, indicating the presentation was about to start. Logan knew that the host was about to take the stage. The most important person at the press conference, Logan knew he needed to be at his seat. The cameras would be looking for him in the crowd, and he didn't want them to find an empty chair. Fortunately, Anna was now quickly approaching him. She looked flustered and unhappy. Her eyes were slightly red. Logan knew that her demeanor had something to do with Garrett. Logan, hey, the server said you were looking for me. What's going on? I was just getting ready to sit down, Anna stated in a rush. She kept looking back over her shoulder, no doubt tracking where Garrett was going to be sitting. Infuriated by this, Logan didn't even say hello before launching into a lecture. I see you're still chasing after Garrett, ignoring my advice like always. Logan scowled at her. Violet, now his sister, he needed Garrett to stay away from the women in his life. Anna felt wronged. She didn't need to hear a lecture right now, especially from Logan. When Garrett had shown up today with Violet, Anna had felt like someone was slapping both her and Logan's faces. She did not want Logan to solely blame Garrett for this. Violet was also in the wrong. Why had Violet not rejected Garrett's invitation? Anna had thought that Violet was going to help her pursue Garrett. Now Violet was here with him herself. It was an insult to both Anna and Logan. They both knew how Anna felt about him, and they both clearly knew that Violet was Logan's woman. Logan, take your bad temper out on me. It's not like I asked Violet to come with Garrett. I'm as upset as you are. Anna also had a bit of temper. She was an Alexander, after all. Yes, but you shouldn't be upset. Not because of Garrett. The guy's no good. You should know that by now. Look how he's clearly using Violet today to get to me. She's too nice to see this, but you should know better, Anna. Garrett has always wanted to steal what's mine, Logan replied, frustrated with his sister. But I know you don't want to hear this, and frankly, I don't have the time to talk about it right now. I called you over because I need your help. Anna knew Logan was right about Garrett. Since they were young, Garrett had always tried to steal what was rightfully Logan's. Even Anna adored Garrett. Well, he did this. In the past few years, Logan and Garrett had tried to interact as little as possible, so Anna had thought that Garrett had moved on from his jealous behavior. But now it seemed like nothing had changed. Inextricably, the idea that Garrett was just using Violet to get to Logan actually made Anna feel better. This meant that Garrett didn't like Violet, and Anna still had a chance. Anna nodded at her brother and said, "Okay. What do you need me to do?" Episode 188. Go Find Violet. The press conference was about to get underway, and he needed to take his seat for the presentation, but he was worried about Violet. I need your help, Anna. Logan was desperate. When Logan had confronted her a few minutes ago about attending today's event with Garrett, he discovered Violet had been drinking. Her iced teas had turned out to be Long Island iced teas, and she'd guzzled several, not realizing they contained alcohol. Now Violet was tipsy, and Logan didn't think she should be alone, so he wanted Anna to find her. However, Anna felt betrayed because Violet had chosen to attend today's event with Garrett. Anna was still refusing to see Garrett for who he really was. Standing here, arguing with his sister, Logan realized Violet was right. She had told Logan it was not possible for him to force Anna to see Garrett for who he really was. Anna had to be ready before she would finally open her eyes and see Garrett's true nature. If Anna wanted to chase Garrett, then she would chase him, and there was nothing Logan could do about it. So Logan told his sister, "Look, Anna, I don't really care right now what you think of Garrett, or anyone else for that matter. What I really need is your help finding Violet. Someone gave her alcohol and now Violet's tipsy and not thinking clearly. I'm worried about her safety." Anna frowned when she heard what Logan wanted. Someone spiked Violet's drinks? Why would they do that? Anna was annoyed with Violet for coming here today with Garrett, but that didn't mean she wanted anything bad to happen to her. Logan seemed to think Garrett had only brought Violet as his date to make Logan angry, not because they liked each other. This made Anna feel better, so she wanted to help her brother. She asked, "How much has she had?" "Enough," Logan replied warily. Anna nodded. "Where did you last see her?" She was headed into the bathroom. Hopefully, she's still in there. Logan hadn't moved since Violet had wandered back to the restroom, but he feared there was another exit he didn't know about. Damn it, he thought. I should have just gone in after her myself. Okay, I'm on it. I'll let you know when I find her, Anna told him. When you have her, let me know. I've called my security guy to come help, but he hasn't arrived yet. Promise me you'll stay with her. Logan was frustrated, but so clearly worried. Anna felt herself softening a little. Her brother really cared about Violet. Don't worry, I'll find her. I've got this. Drake approached them. Corey had asked him to find Logan since he needed to take a seat so they could begin. Logan waved at Drake that he was coming, then returned to finish speaking with his sister. Thank you, Anna. Don't leave Violet alone after you find her. At the end of today's presentation, Grandmother is making an announcement, and I'm worried about how Violet will react. So, pay attention to her mood, Logan instructed. So, you know what's going on? Grandmother's been so secretive. And why did she bring Adam and Amy here today? Although Logan liked the children very much, Anna didn't know what they had to do with her grandmother. Anna had not been home for a few days. She'd gone to stay with her mother at a little beach house. Since she hadn't been back at the old residence, Anna had no idea that Amy and Adam had been staying there. She wanted to be closer to her family, but Agnes had never liked her, even if Anna had been the result of an affair between Logan's father and his mistress. There was also the fact that she just didn't seem to agree with her grandmother on much. Anna's main focus was her job, which sometimes led to irregular hours. In her free time, Anna would meet up with friends and have fun. They would go clubbing, and sometimes she wouldn't return to the old residence until early in the morning. Her disciplined grandmother disliked Anna's erratic schedule. Because Anna didn't keep regular hours, Agnes thought she wasn't doing proper work. Anna and her mother had always lived well, despite grandmother's attitude. Anna had always had plenty of money, assistance, and protection, just not much love. Now Anna was bummed because, given Logan's reaction to her questions about their grandmother, it was obvious that something big was going on with her family. Clearly, Logan knew what was happening. He just hadn't bothered to share it with Anna. Look, Anna, there's no time. You'll know soon enough what's going on with grandmother. Please, just go find Violet. Logan pointed to the bathroom at the end of the hall. He then quickly walked towards the conference stage to take a seat. Today's conference was intended to publicly solidify the continued relationship between the Smith Group and the Kingston Group. Ever since Logan had denied there would be an engagement between Logan and Elizabeth, investors had been worried. Rumors were swirling that the denied engagement meant the end of the relationship between the Kingston and Alexander families. The Kingston Group owned Roland Entertainment, speculated to be in trouble. There had been talks of a new joint venture between Roland Entertainment and Smith Group. Now everyone was wondering if that joint venture would still happen. Miranda would not allow such rumors to continue. She insisted on today's press conference to present a united front. Logan had agreed to the joint venture with Roland Entertainment because of their relationship in the past. And to hedge their bet, Lionel had also been working to become friends with Garrett and the Laurie Group. The Kings feared if the relationship with Elizabeth and Logan was truly over, Logan may still back out in the future. Today, things were still progressing with the newly developed joint venture. Everyone was eagerly waiting for Logan to speak. All the cameras and mobile phones were focused on the man. He was truly a charismatic leader. Logan was born to be the center of attention. Garrett, who was sitting below the stage, had to use all his willpower to hold back his jealousy. He was nothing compared to Logan. He'd always be the runner-up, the silver medalist, the second-place finisher, front of his brother. Watching Logan on stage now, Garrett was reminded of all he believed Logan had cost him. Garrett noticed he'd begun to shake his leg in agitation and had to force himself to stop. He suppressed his anxiety and jealousy, thinking that the time would come for retribution. Garrett's desire to seek revenge on the Alexander family for his father's death was only equaled by his desire to trample Logan's pride under his feet. Garrett wanted to return to him tenfold all the humiliation Garrett felt he had suffered over the years because of Logan. Elizabeth, who was seated across the aisle from Garrett, was staring at Logan with a look of pure admiration. She was clearly besotted with the man on stage, which made Chloe, who was seated beside her, feel heartache. Her little sister was deeply in love with Logan. He had denied their engagement but still remained polite, even agreeing to escort Elizabeth to today's event. That continued contact, combined with their mother's continued pressure on Elizabeth to salvage her relationship with Logan, left her sister in romantic limbo. Meanwhile, Chloe grew more and more satisfied with her relationship with Lionel every day. They were engaged, and she was even pregnant with Lionel's child. Her relationship was going from strength to strength. Chloe saw the contrast between sisters, and because of that, she felt even more sympathy for Elizabeth's situation. Even though Chloe was satisfied with Miranda's clear favoritism of Elizabeth, Chloe didn't hold this against her sister. She would always wholeheartedly help Elizabeth when she could. Chloe reached over and squeezed Elizabeth's hand in an effort to comfort her. Elizabeth turned her head to look at her sister. Seeing the concern on Chloe's face, Elizabeth mouthed to her, "Chloe, really?" Then she turned back towards the stage to continue to gaze lovingly at Logan. She couldn't take her eyes off the man. Chloe watched her sister another moment, then leaned in close to whisper in Elizabeth's ear, "No, I think you're fine, dear sister. But if all goes according to..." Episode 189. Chloe has a plan. Chloe had mentioned to Elizabeth that she had a way to help her get Logan back, and now she was looking wide-eyed at her sister. "Really, Chloe? Please tell me you have a plan," Elizabeth whispered. They were sitting next to each other at the press conference as Logan spoke on stage. Elizabeth's eyes were hopeful as she stared at Chloe. Chloe knew that it was hard for Elizabeth to attend the press conference with Logan, knowing that she may have lost him forever. She had been staring wistfully at Logan on stage as he spoke, clear hero worship on her face. Chloe knew Logan had only agreed to escort Elizabeth today out of politeness and obligation. Chloe knew his heart wasn't with Elizabeth. He seemed to only have eyes for Violet. But Chloe had a plan. And after today, Violet would no longer be an issue. And with Violet out of the picture, Elizabeth would once again have Logan's full attention. Chloe leaned to the side to whisper to Elizabeth, "Don't I always have a plan? I can't say more, but know that something will definitely happen today." Chloe glanced at her sister's face, then turning back to face forward, Chloe motioned subtly with her chin to Logan on stage. "Something that will make you very happy." Picking up her signal, Elizabeth was thrilled that Chloe was going to help her with Logan. Clearly, Chloe had planned something which could only mean good things for Elizabeth and bad things for Violet. Smiling genuinely for the first time that day, Elizabeth whispered under her breath to Chloe, "It's such an important occasion. If something were to happen today, everyone of significance would know almost immediately." Chloe smiled sweetly. "That's the idea, dear sister." Elizabeth was grateful and touched as she side-hugged Chloe and whispered, "I'm so lucky to have you, Chloe." "I'm your sister, so naturally I will help you," Chloe replied. Elizabeth nodded and looked at Logan on stage again. Logan always stood out in any room he entered, but watching him now was riveting. Who wouldn't want such a man? As for Violet, that rotten thing, what right did she have to monopolize him? Elizabeth was filled with nervous excitement as she thought about what Chloe might have planned. At that moment, Chloe's phone vibrated in her pocket. Elizabeth watched her sister swipe open her phone and frown when she read the message on screen. Chloe looked around the room, then fired off a quick reply. Elizabeth couldn't see what the screen said. Chloe touched Elizabeth's hand lightly, then murmured to her, "You sit here. No matter what happens, don't leave." "Yes, I will do what you say." Was the plan about to start? Elizabeth wondered. "I have to take care of something. I'm going to the bathroom." Chloe then winked at Elizabeth. Elizabeth told her to be careful and to come back quickly. The press conference was going smoothly. The small interaction between the two Kingston sisters was not eye-catching, but Haley noticed it. Haley had a hobby, which was to go on social media to argue with the trolls who went after Violet. A large portion of them were bot accounts that the Rutherford family had bought on behalf of the Kingstons. Haley also had some understanding of the internet and spent money spamming the spammers. She liked to fight with the brainless trolls under Haley's various anonymous accounts and usernames. Helping Violet against the haters had gained her a lot of followers. Elizabeth was one of Haley's favorite targets. This woman boasted that she was a talented actress that just happened to have been born to a wealthy society family. Naturally, Elizabeth's online persona was of a gentle, elegant, and gracious young woman who would not personally flame or blacklist her haters. Haley knew she was a phony and was very active in her comment section. Violet already had a large online following. Elizabeth's fans and Violet's fans would regularly engage in social media battles, with Haley often leading the charge for Team Violet. When the two sides were feuding, they would all begin posting and spamming each other. There would be a lot of likes, emojis, and shares flying around online. Haley took these regular battles as an opportunity to let more and more people know that Chloe and Elizabeth were not the only children of the Kingston family. On the contrary, the true heir, Violet, had been chased out and vilified by her own family for their own selfish reasons. Haley sat and scrolled through the latest posts to the Elizabeth versus Violet hashtag. Since Violet is the inheritor, then what qualifications does the Kingston family have to chase her off? What a joke. Do they have the legal authority? Good, Haley thought. People were starting to wake up. Some people had realized something was wrong. Haley liked the comment. That's right. What right did they have to deprive someone of their inheritance? I heard Violet was in the will. So if that's true, the Kingstons surely look shady. This comment also got a like from Haley. Why would the granddaughter inherit, skipping over the son Charles Kingston? Seems to me the Kingstons are only arguing for what is rightfully theirs. Violet probably tricked the old man into making her his heir. Violet really is shameless. Nope, no like for this one, Haley thought. She replied to the mean comment with some angry face emojis. Haley used one of her anonymous accounts to post her own comment. Let's not worry about whether the will is real or fake. I heard that old man Kingston died mysteriously. His cause of death sure looks suspicious. After posting, Haley quickly signed out of her first account into one with a different username. There were no records of any of her accounts, and she used hidden IP addresses. Even if Miranda found someone to investigate, she wouldn't find anything. As expected, the comment section immediately exploded over her last post. Her feed was soon filled with thousands of new comments. From the second account, Haley expressed her surprise about her own post. Then, Haley, through her various user accounts, slowly directed suspicion towards Charles and Miranda Kingston. Haley felt guilty about none of her online activities. If there was anything she could do to help Violet, she would do it. Moreover, didn't Miranda like to sling mud? This was just giving the Kingstons a taste of their own medicine. Haley was more than happy to be a thorn to the Kingston side. The heated social media discussion about the Kingston family only grew. Haley was very satisfied with the bold ideas of the commenters. They were already speculating whether Charles Kingston and his wife had caused the death of Violet's parents. Happy with the online pot she had stirred, Haley put away her phone and gave her attention back to the press conference. Logan was just about to finish speaking. Glancing around, Haley noticed Chloe and Elizabeth were seated together and whispering. Elizabeth then hugged her sister, smiling widely. Then Chloe pulled out her phone and swiped it open. After reading the screen, Chloe whispered something to Elizabeth and then got up to leave. Haley watched the conference room door shut behind Chloe. I wonder where Chloe's going, Haley thought, a whisper of suspicion passing through her. Haley looked around the room and didn't see Violet anywhere, not even with Garrett, who'd brought her. Haley immediately felt worried and wanted to find her friend. Just then, the presentation stage manager approached Haley and told her it was time for her to take her place backstage. The portion of the program Haley was presenting jointly with Lionel was up next. So, with one more quick search around the room for Violet, Haley got up and hurried backstage. She would just have to look for her friend later. Episode 190. A Little Green. Violet was wishing she was anywhere but where she currently was, in one of the ballroom bathroom stalls having recently been thick. She grabbed some toilet paper off the roll to wipe her mouth and swore that she would never, ever touch alcohol again. Of course, to be fair, she hadn't meant to touch it today. Violet was kicking herself now. How could she not have realized that her iced teas were actually Long Island iced teas? And strong ones, apparently, from what Logan had told her. Oh God, Logan. He looked like he was furious with her. Violet's brain was fuzzy, but she could remember the look on his face clearly through her current brain fog. Violet was sure she was going to have a doozy of a headache tomorrow morning. To think she was going to have to listen to one of Logan's lectures while hungover. Violet didn't think there was enough aspirin in the world to battle that kind of pain. Just then, she heard someone else enter the bathroom. She heard the click-clack of someone's high heels on the tile as they went from stall to stall, and then stopped in front of Violet's. She heard a tentative knock on the door. Violet? Violet, are you in there? It's Anna. Anna knocked on the bathroom stall again, hopefully. Anna? Violet said weakly. Violet had never been happier to hear anyone's voice than she was right now. She was tipsy, dizzy, and had just been sick from all the alcohol she had accidentally consumed at today's press conference. Anna should have just called herself Angel. Violet was so happy a friend was here to help her. Yes, Violet, it's me, Anna. Oh, thank goodness I found you. Logan is worried about you. He sent me to look for you since he was called to the stage. Are you all right? Can you unlatch the door? Anna spoke in a rush, clearly relieved to have found Violet and to have not let her brother down. Violet reached up from her perch on the toilet seat's edge and unlatched the door, letting it swing open. Oh, I'm so glad I found you. I don't think I've ever seen Logan look so Whoa. Violet, you look a little green. Anna looked at Violet in surprise. How much did you drink? What did you drink? Yeah, I know. It's not pretty. Remind me to never order iced tea again, Violet replied with a grimace. Even the words made her nauseous. She filled Anna in on how her throat had become dry in the warm ballroom while greeting the press. Violet had wanted iced tea, but must have been given the wrong kind. That's really surprising. I helped Haley with some of the details for today's event, and I could swear she hadn't had hard liquor on the menu. Do you think it was a mistake or... Well, anyway, never mind that. How can I help? Anna didn't think hard liquor had been on the catering order, and she wasn't so sure Violet being served alcohol was an accident. She didn't want to worry Violet by speculating right now, so she dropped it. I think I stopped before I got completely drunk, but I've had enough to be sick and dizzy, Violet sighed. I don't want to leave yet and disappoint Garrett. Maybe if I could just lie down for a bit, I'd feel better. Of course, Anna was on board as soon as she heard Garrett's name. Anna never wanted to be the cause of Garrett being disappointed. She had been jealous of Violet when they showed up together today. But looking at the pitiful expression on Violet's face now, she just felt bad for her. I booked a couple of hotel rooms on the second floor right above the conference ballroom. They were for hair and makeup for the presenters, but they're done now. Why don't you go lie down in one for a while? I'll bring you water, aspirin, and a big pot of coffee. When you're ready, you can rejoin the event, Anna suggested. That sounds perfect, Anna. You're an angel. Thank you for your help. Violet smiled weakly at the younger woman. No need to thank me. I'm happy to help. Besides, I'm just relieved I found you, or Logan would have lost it. Anna smiled meaningfully at Violet. But Violet didn't have the energy to think about the meaning behind Anna's words about Violet and Logan's relationship. Anna helped Violet up and wrapped her arm around her waist as they walked together out of the ladies' room. Right outside the restroom door, a huge man in a jacket and tie was waiting for them. Violet recognized Terrence, Logan's backup bodyguard when Mike wasn't available. Mike hadn't been released from the hospital after the accident with George. Anna recognized her brother's bodyguard, too. I'm glad I found you. Miss Kingston, if you don't mind me saying, you don't look so good. You look a little green. Terrence looked at the women with concern. How can I help? The bodyguard was a former NFL linebacker. He was almost 2 feet taller than Violet and probably could break her in half with his pinky. He was also a total sweetheart and a fellow parent of twins, 2 adorable little girls. Terrence, perfect timing. Can you help Violet up to room 216? It's 1 floor up, right above the ballroom. Anna fished in her pocket for the key card. Violet is going to lie down for a bit and rest. I'll go grab a carafe of black coffee and some bottled waters from the caterers, and then I'll be right up. Of course, happy to help. Mr. Alexander says I'm to stay with you, Violet, until he meets up with you later. Terrence reached out and gently wrapped his arm around the unsteady Violet's waist. He then began walking with her slowly towards the elevator. He ushered her carefully into the elevator, and they rode up to the 2nd floor together. Thank you, Terrence. I really appreciate your help. Violet smiled weakly up at him. Time, Miss Kingston. I'm happy to help a fellow twin parent. How are Adam and Amy? Replied as they exited the elevator car together. They're good. They're here today. Hopefully you'll get a chance to say hello. Violet stumbled, her feet suddenly feeling disconnected from her legs. Terrence grabbed her shoulders to steady her. Sorry, I'm a little dizzy, she apologized. I think I'm okay. Then Violet swayed again when Terrence tried to let go. Okay, up you go. Terrence gently lifted Violet. Oh no, don't have to do that, I can walk. Although truthfully, Violet wondered if she could at this moment. I'm too heavy, Violet said. Heavy. I've got shoes that weigh more than you. Terrence began striding down the hall, indeed, like he barely noticed his load. Violet felt a wave of dizziness and leaned against his chest. When they arrived at the room, Terrence opened the door and let them in, the door shutting automatically behind them. Terrence and Violet hadn't noticed anyone else on the 2nd floor, but someone had definitely noticed them. The pregnant woman, who was sitting in the lounge area next to the bank of elevators, saw the 2 of them exit the elevator. She then watched the big man carry the drunk Violet into room 216. Watching the door close behind them, the woman looked a bit panicked. She quickly pulled out her phone to type a text to Chloe. Violet went into the room with the man, but they went into room 216, not room 226. I thought you told me to watch the door of room 226. I think he took her into the wrong room. Chloe texted her back, I'll be right there. When Logan finished speaking, he took his seat beside Elizabeth. As he sat down, he pulled out his phone and sent a text to Anna, asking if she'd found Violet yet. After a few minutes, Logan saw the bubbles indicating Anna was typing. She wrote, Violet, okay, feeling dizzy and a little green. She's lying down in room number 216. It was one of the hotel rooms I had booked for hair and makeup, but now it's empty. Parents helped Violet into the hotel room while I got coffee and aspirin. We'll both wait with her until she's feeling well enough to return. Elizabeth gently leaned against Logan and asked him who he was talking to. Logan casually read Anna's message as if it was nothing important. Elizabeth wouldn't dare peek at his phone, so she knew nothing. Logan fired off a quick note of thanks to Anna. Then he slipped his phone back into his suit pocket and told Elizabeth it was nothing. Just work. Episode 191, Room 226. Logan was relieved to get a text from Anna that Violet was okay. He'd been worried about Violet when he discovered someone had served her alcohol. Of course, he wouldn't tell Violet that later. He'd be too busy giving her a lecture. As he slipped his phone back into his pocket, Logan saw Elizabeth watching him out of the corner of his eye. He ignored her and kept his gaze studiously on the stage. Elizabeth was just not taking a hint, and Logan could not give her any chance to fantasize about him. He thought of Violet and felt that after today's obligation was fulfilled, he should keep a certain distance from the whole Kingston family, including Elizabeth, from now on. After today, the Kingstons should understand that there was no use constantly throwing Elizabeth in his path. The woman who had been with him that night 4 years ago had been Violet. He hoped that after they knew that he knew the truth, they would wisely choose to shut up and keep the relationship between the Kingstons and Logan strictly business-related. Otherwise, Logan might change some of his decisions. If they remained stubborn after the truth was revealed, then they couldn't blame Logan for being impolite. Ignoring Elizabeth's fawning gaze, Logan directed his attention to the presentation on stage. Logan originally had asked Corey to make the speech outlining their new venture. When Corey had suggested having Drake give the speech instead, Logan had agreed. Corey was impressed with Drake's work and wanted to give him a chance to grow his skill set. The only person harder to impress than Logan was Corey. Corey was one of the top special assistants in the country. Every year, someone would spend a great deal of time and money trying to poach Logan's right and left-hand man. If Corey thought Drake was ready, Logan believed him. Logan trusting Drake with today's speech was a huge step forward in Drake's career. When Drake finished explaining the details of the new joint venture, the applause was enthusiastic, and Corey smiled at Logan. Next to speak would be Lionel, representing the Kingston group, and Haley, representing the Laurie group. Across the aisle, Garrett was applauding while watching Haley and Lionel take center stage together. Garrett knew the two didn't care for each other, and he found himself thinking those two would get into a fight. Of course, Garrett was bored. Maybe a fight would liven this snooze fest up. He thought bringing Violet today to the press conference would be anything but dull. But he hadn't seen Violet in a long time. She'd excused herself to go to the ladies' room and had never returned. When the presentation had begun, the seat beside Garrett was empty, and it had remained empty since. Bored, Garrett let his eyes roam around the room. His gaze landed on the surprising trio of Agnes, Adam, and Amy. Garrett had no idea why his grandmother had escorted Violet's children to today's event. Garrett had his investigators investigate any past association between Violet and Logan a long time ago, and they'd turned up nothing. Did Logan have it so bad for Violet that he had convinced his grandmother to accept her children? If true, Garrett had to admire Violet. Not every man would accept another man's children in their lives, and to get his grandmother to accept children, not of Alexander blood? Well, that would make Violet a true miracle worker. Garrett looked over to where his brother was seated. Elizabeth was sitting beside Logan. Logan was checking his phone, while Elizabeth was checking out Logan. As usual, his brother was ignoring the woman. Would Elizabeth never learn? The seat beside Elizabeth was empty. Garrett remembered Chloe had been sitting there. Glancing at Lionel on stage, Garrett was surprised she wasn't there to watch her boo speak. Chloe had it bad for the man. Sylvia, Charles's mistress, was pacing while she waited for Chloe. Well, pacing as best she could while being pregnant. Waddling back and forth was more like it. Sylvia was starting to wonder if she should be trusting Chloe Kingston. Yes, she was Charles's daughter and the future half-sister of the baby in her belly. But Sylvia just thought there was something a little off about the woman. Chloe had tried to attack her when she and Charles had run into her at the clubhouse. Lionel had to hold her back. Later that night, when Sylvia had asked Charles what the deal was, he had just said his daughter was intense but loyal. Not exactly the warmest way to describe your own daughter, Sylvia thought. Given their very unpleasant first meeting, she had been surprised when Chloe had reached out to her through Lionel. She'd been even more surprised when Chloe had said she wanted to talk alone, just between us girls. Chloe wanted to get revenge on Violet Kingston for betraying the Kingston family and stealing her sister's man. Sylvia, everyone else in LA, knew all about the Logan Elizabeth Violet love triangle and Violet's battle with the Kingstons over her inheritance. Chloe had told Sylvia she knew that Sylvia wanted her father to leave her mother. Chloe claimed that once she had calmed down that night and thought about it, she realized that her parents splitting was probably the best thing for everyone. She said her parents had been unhappy for a long time, and it was time for that to change. If Sylvia and this baby made her father happy, then Chloe would want to make that happen. And said that since Sylvia's baby and her own would be close in age, their babies could grow up together and have play dates. Chloe wanted to help Sylvia get what she wanted, but she also wanted Sylvia to help her get what she wanted. Chloe was going to arrange for Violet to be incapacitated and then taken to a hotel room by a man Chloe hired. She then would arrange for the two to get caught and make sure all of LA witnessed Violet cheating on Logan. Logan would abandon her, devastating Violet, and her cousin would have no choice but to return to the Kingston family and rely on her mother's support for the rest of her life. Sylvia was nervous. She didn't want to get involved in any crimes, but Chloe had assured her that Violet was an awful person who had even killed people. When Sylvia had asked for more detail, Chloe had said the stories were too awful to repeat, especially in Sylvia's current delicate condition. Chloe had assured her, though, whatever Violet got, she would deserve. Sylvia decided to believe Chloe because she desperately wanted to be the next Mrs. Charles Kingston. Chloe had told Sylvia that she would be her lookout and distraction today. First, Sylvia would wait until she saw the man bring Violet into the hotel room, and once they were inside the room, she would loudly pretend to go into labor. Knowing everyone would come to a pregnant woman's aid, a crowd would come running, and between those people and the press and subordinates Chloe had paid to show up, Violet would be discovered. Contact of Chloe's had arranged for paparazzi to hide in the hotel rooms closest to get the best footage of Violet and the man. Once they heard the commotion Sylvia was going to create, that would be their signal to open the door so everyone could see Violet. And then they'd blend into the crowd of onlookers. Chloe had called it Fool Plan. But this morning, when Chloe had texted Sylvia, she had said that the man was going to take Violet to room 226. But Sylvia had seen the big man carry Violet into room 216, and she had panicked and texted Chloe. Sylvia saw Chloe get off the elevators. She hurried up to her. "Miss Kingston, they're in the wrong room. What are we going to do?" Sylvia asked in an attempt at a whisper that really wasn't a whisper at all. "Shh! Do you want everyone to hear you?" Grabbed Sylvia by the sleeve and tugged her into a nearby alcove. It was a bit snug, Sylvia's large belly, and Chloe's smaller one, but they fit. "Still work. The room doesn't matter as long as they get caught. I'll go tell the photographers hiding in room 226 that there's been a change of location," Chloe explained. She then held up a master housekeeping keycard she'd bribed off a hotel employee a few minutes ago. "I'll give the photographers the key, and when the time comes, they can use it to open the door to room 216 where Violet really is." Chloe looked at her watch. "Violet's been in there a while, right? Get into position. I want you to wait another 10 minutes, then call my dad and go into labor. You have taken the medicine, right?" Sylvia nodded her head yes nervously, without speaking. Chloe looked at her standing there, drew her hands to the side and said, "Go!" Sylvia jumped at Chloe's command and scurried off to her designated position. Died. It was so hard to find good criminal accomplices these days. Turning, Chloe hurried down the hall and used her key card to open the door to room 226. She then ducked into the dimly lit room quickly so she wouldn't be seen, letting the door automatically shut behind her. Neither woman saw when Violet exited room 216 a short time later and headed back downstairs to the press conference with Terrence. Episode 192. Logan's Children. Charles stifled a yawn. He had accompanied Miranda to today's press conference out of obligation, but he was bored stiff. He was trying not to fall asleep when he felt his phone vibrate in his pocket. He discreetly looked at the screen. Then, without any explanation, he quickly left the ballroom. The text had been from his mistress Sylvia. She was here at the hotel and needed to see him. If Miranda spotted Charles with another woman, it would be a disaster. As soon as Sylvia picked up the phone, he began to berate her in a low voice. "Sylvia, what the hell are you doing here? Do you want us to get caught?" But then Sylvia's next words stopped his heart. "Charles, oh thank God, I had to come find you. Hurry, I'm on the second floor and I think I'm in labor." Then Sylvia, for effect, let out a loud scream, loud enough to catch the attention of everyone nearby, and then she moaned and slumped to the floor. Logan didn't notice Charles hurrying out of the ballroom. The press conference had proceeded in an orderly manner, and it was almost over. Agnes would be making her announcement at the end of the program. Logan left his seat beside Elizabeth without saying anything to her, and moved to sit with his grandmother and the twins. Logan hadn't seen Adam and Amy since he confirmed that the twins were indeed his children. Now, seeing them again, he felt an unexpected warmth bloom inside him as he pulled Amy into his lap. He asked them if they had been having fun with their great-grandmother and whether they were happy. Twins still weren't used to the idea of Uncle Logan being their daddy. They looked at him shyly and thought that if Uncle Logan was really daddy, then they were so lucky. Adam and Amy had been hoping for a father just like Uncle Logan. Uncle Logan listened to them and liked spending time with them. Not only did Uncle Logan like them, but he also protected them. Now their dream had come true because Uncle Logan was actually their daddy. Adam and Amy did not know that their great-grandmother didn't like their mommy and would not accept her entering the Alexander family. This would have made them sad, and Logan couldn't bear the thought of making them unhappy. Speaking of which, he had to think of a way to resolve the problem of Violet and grandmother. Logan was at a loss. Grandmother didn't like Violet, so would Logan be willing to defy his grandmother to have Violet in his life? Maybe if he loved Violet, but he couldn't be falling in love with her, right? He didn't even know what Violet's true feelings for him were. Sometimes he felt more from her, but then she'd close herself off to him again. Logan still did not understand his woman very well. Logan decided it was too early to say that he loved her. Since it was too early for Logan to decide these things, he decided to wait to talk to the children about his relationship with their mother. As if she knew he'd been thinking of her, Violet returned to the main conference room at that moment. As she entered, Logan and Violet's eyes seemed to find each other in the crowd. They locked eyes for a long moment, and then Violet sat down next to Haley in the back of the room. Logan looked over at Terrence, who faithfully took up a position discreetly behind Violet. Logan nodded his head to the big man in thanks, and Terrence dipped his head in acknowledgement. Logan could see Violet's face was pale, and she looked exhausted. Adam and Amy had spotted their mommy and wanted to go see her, but they were stopped by Logan. "Wait a moment. Great-grandmother has something important to announce. Listen to me and sit properly. Then afterward you can go see your mommy," Logan told them. The two children could only obey. Great-grandmother looked quite serious as she was called up to the stage. The children's big eyes looked towards their mother and godmother again. Hopefully great-grandmother would talk quickly so the twins could go see them. As for Elizabeth, at this moment her mind was racing and her heart was pounding in her throat. Didn't we say that she had thought of a way to deal with Violet? Yet there Violet was, sitting with Haley as if nothing was wrong. Had her sister's plan failed? Why had Violet returned to the ballroom unscathed? What exactly was going on? Elizabeth did a frantic scan of the room. Chloe wasn't sitting with her parents, although Elizabeth thought it odd her father's seat was empty. Part of Chloe's plan? Garrett had also noticed Violet's return. While he wished she would have taken her assigned seat beside Garrett, he was satisfied when he saw Violet sitting with Haley instead of Logan. In any case, Garrett's purpose of bringing Violet here today had already been achieved. It made Logan angry and gave him the opportunity to be close to Elizabeth. Agnes had now taken her place center stage. She then announced a shocking piece of news. Adam and Amy were actually the children of the Alexander family. There were audible gasps in the ballroom. Agnes brought Adam and Amy onto the stage and announced that from today onward they would be known as Adam and Amy Alexander. The audience began to speak in excited whispers. Reporters scrambled to be the first to report this unexpected announcement. Everyone had their own reaction to the news. Elizabeth and Miranda, for their part, were stiff with shock. They sat ramrod straight in their seats and did not dare turn their heads to look over at Logan. Their minds raced with what this revelation meant for them and their futures. Garrett was stunned, like everyone else, that Adam and Amy were Logan's children, although not because this had never occurred to him. Unlike pretty much everyone else in the room, Garrett had once wondered if there was a prior connection between Violet and Logan. He hadn't been able to ignore the physical resemblance between Adam and his brother. But Garrett's people had found nothing. Now it seemed that Violet and Logan really had dated before. Why had his investigators not been able to discover any link? His people must be incompetent. Garrett scowled. Had he known this earlier, he could have used the information against Logan. Damn it. People were getting fired later. Haley was miffed. Still did not understand what Agnes meant. What's she talking about? Haley whispered in confusion to Violet. Has the old lady lost the plot? You can't just snatch other people's children. In all the confusion today, Violet remembered that she still hadn't had a chance to tell her friend about the origins of her children. Haley went on, ignoring Violet's attempt to interrupt her. I mean, get it? Agnes is desperate for Logan to settle down and pop out some heirs, but she actually said that Adam and Amy are her great-grandchildren, Haley protested. The atmosphere on stage was calm and peaceful. There was a smile on Agnes's face, and her voice was strong and clear, so that everyone could hear her. These two children are fully acknowledged members of the Alexander family. They are flesh and blood of my grandson Logan. Please bear witness to the future of the Alexander family. Come, their sweet young faces. At these words, Haley's brows were tightly knitted as she looked at Violet full of questions. What exactly is going on? Did you make some sort of deal with the children? Haley shook her head as if trying to clear it of all her confusion. Hey, is that what you think of me? Violet was torn between happiness and frustration. Haley, you need to calm down and let me speak. Agnes is right. The children are from the Alexander family. Who gave birth to them? I was there. Noah was there. The twins were born healthy and happy. When she and Noah had held the children for the first time, they were even happier than Violet herself. Haley would never forget that day. Haley looked at the stage again. It was indeed Adam and Amy. They stood there with no awkwardness. They always had such good manners. He rubbed her eyes. Are you saying... Could it be... Haley looked directly at Violet. Violet nodded. She then covered her mouth, smiled happily. Although the Alexander family did not admit to her identity, Violet was the mother of the children, and this could not be changed. She did not want to be a part of the Alexander family, but as long as they did not separate Violet from her children, didn't care. As Alexanders, Adam and Amy would be taken care of for the rest of their lives. What you mean is... Haley's eyes grew big as saucers. She stared at Violet in disbelief. 4 years ago, that man... Haley was stunned. Had that man 4 years ago actually been Logan Alexander? Episode 193. Commotion. Haley was still trying to process the news that Logan was really Adam and Amy's biological father. Agnes had just made the announcement at the end of today's press conference, but Haley still needed confirmation from Violet that this was a good thing. "Violet, please explain this to me. I thought that man that night was not a good person, that you were—" Haley's words faltered as she watched her friend shake her head no. "No, Haley, it's a long story, but Logan didn't attack me," Violet said in a low voice. "We were both drugged and tricked that night." Haley's heart was about to explode at the final piece of news. This wasn't a romance novel. This wasn't even a TV drama. But there was no doubt now that Logan was the father of Violet's children. This was better than their father being any other man. In Los Angeles, there weren't really many people who could compare with Logan Alexander. Haley's shoulders trembled, and tears were beginning to fill her eyes as she reached to hug her friend. "Violet, I'm so happy for you. You and the children will be okay now. No matter what, Logan will take care of his own." "But I don't want anything from Logan. Haley, do you understand?" Violet spoke from her heart. She did not want to force Logan to accept her because of their children, or force herself to accept Logan because he was their father. "I understand. I get it." Haley also did not feel that Violet giving birth to children of the Alexander family would get her accepted into Agnes's family. Haley knew how Anna's mother had been treated, after all. Still, there was no doubt that Logan was Adam and Amy's father. Simply a huge weight off of Haley's shoulders. At the very least, she did not have to worry about people with ulterior motives coming after Violet and the children. In fact, with the protection of the Alexanders, the children no longer had to fear the Kingston family's attack. The Kingstons would not want to challenge the Alexanders. The children's futures had already surpassed Violet and Haley's, and even Noah's, wildest dreams. For Violet, some uncertainty remained. But for Adam and Amy, this change in circumstance was indeed a good thing. If Adam and Amy's father had been the man that Chloe had originally arranged to attack Violet, then Violet would never want her children's father in their lives. Violet would never let her children acknowledge a rapist as their father. But now that Haley knew it was Logan, and that he was also drugged and tricked that day 4 years ago, it's a different story. Who knew Violet and the children's father would both turn out to be victims of Chloe's plot? Something special had come out of something sinister for Logan and Violet to come together that night, and no one would ever think that Adam and Amy had been a mistake. And now the family had found each other again. It seemed to be fate. Although there was no declaration of love, there was security and comfort. The Kingstons were the only ones who should now be afraid of being discovered. Haley wiped her tears, seeing that Violet's mood was calm. Haley thought that this was just like her friend. Even faced with such dramatic circumstances, Violet would maintain her serene and demure exterior. Violet was that rare beauty that didn't realize how gorgeous she was. On the surface, Violet looked like a delicate hothouse flower, so fragile that she could be blown away by a gust of wind. In truth, Haley knew the incredible strength behind her friend's beautiful and mild exterior. Violet had given birth to 2 children and then raised them alone. Haley knew how much strength and determination Violet really had. Miranda had been doing her best to compose herself. When the crowd of well-wishers around Agnes broke up a little, Miranda walked over to the older woman and said, "This is unbelievable news. You can't be mistaken, right? We believe the children were conceived after Violet had left the country." Miranda wished Chloe was here. She looked around, but her daughter was nowhere to be found. It can't be. Could it? That her premonitions had come true? From the time Violet had returned to Los Angeles and had begun working at Spec Group, she'd always felt that there was something strange about the 2 children. Turning to her niece, who stood watching off to the side, Miranda suddenly said, "Oh, Violet, why did you hide this from your Aunt Miranda? If you had told us that these were Mr. Alexander's children, we would have been so happy for you." The news about the children, Miranda's face had turned from shock to furious red, and now to envious green. If these two children were really Logan's, then would a relationship between Elizabeth and Logan still be possible? All Violet could do was trying not to snort aloud at her aunt's hypocrisy. "You must be joking, Miranda. I only found out recently myself. My children have never been your concern, and now that they are Alexander's, they will still not be your concern. I am the children's mother, but my relationship with Logan will not be changing. The Alexanders will take care of their own, and I support my children in taking their rightful place in their father's family," Violet told Miranda with a smirk. It was all Violet could do not to laugh in her aunt's face. The greatest pressure on Violet's heart had been lifted. From now on, she could focus on dealing with the Kingston family. The Alexander family would protect her children well. Violet's words worried Miranda, although she didn't respond. Kidnapping and framing. If Logan were to blame these things on the Kingstons, it would be the end of her family. Miranda had really miscalculated, she realized. She should never have given the two little bastards a chance to meet Logan. Guests started whispering amongst themselves. After Agnes announced the origin of the children, she told everyone that they would be legally acknowledged. From now on, they would be raised as the heirs of the Alexander family. Was Violet the schemer who had led all of this? Or were the children accidentally discovered by the Alexander family? Not that the how even mattered. Even if Violet and Logan were not married, their children had already been recognized by Agnes and were officially Alexander heirs. Agnes had silently observed the exchange between aunt and niece. Violet, in Agnes's heart, was definitely not wife material. She would not agree to a woman like Violet joining the Alexander family. However, Agnes did not want to fight with her grandson, so for now she said nothing. Violet had just said that she would not force her way into the Alexander family through her children. Agnes glanced at Violet and thought, at least she was being sensible. Therefore, when Adam and Amy wanted to go off and visit with their mommy and godmother, Agnes agreed. Children still needed their mother. Logan had not been hugged enough yet. He wanted to spend more time with his children. Instead, he watched helplessly as the children excitedly ran off to visit their mother and godmother. His gloomy face was very unhappy. Elizabeth tried to talk to him, but he ignored her. The children had just begun to tell Violet all about the fun things they had been doing when there was a loud commotion outside the main room. People began running to take the stairs to the second floor above the ballroom. Logan frowned, then looked at Violet from across the room. Violet understood what he meant. Don't let the children see or hear anything bad. Violet quickly ushered Adam and Amy towards the refreshment room. Terence followed closely behind. Haley saw what Violet was doing. Why? Amy, Adam, you accompany Mommy inside and find some yummy snacks to eat. I have to go check on some things, but you can wait here and catch up with your mommy. Haley kissed the two little ones' tender cheeks. Haley definitely had to go find out what all the commotion was about. After all, Garrett had made her Lori Group's liaison. As the key person in charge, she had to understand the cause of any disturbance at today's event, so she dashed away in her high heels. Sounds of distress were coming from the second floor. A group of people ran up the stairs to see what was happening. They weren't prepared for the sight that greeted them. The current patriarch of the Kingston family, Charles Kingston, was kneeling on the floor, cradling a pregnant woman. Pregnant woman who, the bystanders noted, was most definitely not Charles's wife, Miranda. Episode 194. Karma. Charles Kingston was crouched on the ground, cradling a pregnant woman, a woman who bystanders noted was most definitely not Charles's wife, Miranda. Charles was alternating between murmuring calming words to the woman and shouting for someone to call an ambulance. "Somebody call 911. Get a doctor. She's going into labor," Charles shouted at anyone who would listen. The woman was sprawled on the ground while holding her stomach. She was alternating between moaning and crying out dramatically. She acted as if she was crying in pain, and the medicine that Chloe gave her started to react, and she was sweating profusely. Miranda's subordinates and the witnesses that Chloe had arranged arrived on the scene first, having been waiting close by. The pregnant woman, seeing the onlookers, moaned louder while motioning with her head down the hall. Without stopping to help, Chloe's paid witnesses ran down the hall straight to room 226 with their phones and cameras out. Many other curious guests and hotel workers followed their lead. The paid subordinates didn't stop to ask if the pregnant woman was okay, because they already knew she was. Like them, the woman had a role to play and was being compensated for her time. They knew Sylvia, Charles's mistress, was merely the opening act to the real show Chloe had set up for Violet in room 226. Charles, however, did not know Sylvia was in on the plan. He was cradling his mistress in his arms as if she were his greatest treasure, still shouting for someone to call for an ambulance. Miranda, like everyone else, had exited the ballroom to see what all the commotion was about. She heard a very familiar voice shouting and hurried up the stairs to the second floor. When she saw the scene in front of her, Miranda felt a chill sweep through her body. Was this what karma felt like? Everything was going against Miranda today. The children had just been revealed to be Logan's, and now Charles was on the ground comforting a pregnant woman. A woman, Miranda knew instinctively, was not only her husband's mistress, but the mother of Charles's unborn child. He actually dared to hug another woman in front of everyone. Who had given her famously meek husband the courage to do this? Miranda could not allow her respect to be trampled like this. She rushed forward and wanted to tear Charles and the woman apart. However, she saw that the woman was clutching her stomach, seemingly from labor pains. The baby was coming now. Miranda was shocked and stumbled back a few steps. She bumped into the person behind her and almost fell. Since she had taken over the Kingston group and become the de facto leader of the Kingston family, she had never been in such a sorry state as she was right now. This feeling reminded her of the way people had looked at her when she first started working in the Kingston group, especially Richard Kingston's fiancée Dahlia, who had looked down on her. Miranda was arrogant and domineering. She had bullied her way into a position as Charles's secretary, but she was unable to get a promotion because Charles' father, Kenneth, didn't like her. His brother Richard and his brother's fiancée Dahlia also didn't trust her. Miranda was almost chased out of the Kingston group after Richard and Dahlia got married. It was one thing for Richard to be aloof, but it was his wife that was really the problem. Dahlia didn't trust Miranda. She thought she acted inappropriately with Charles. Miranda was always making excuses to be very close to Charles. She even pretended to bump into her boss when she got off work and would ask Charles out to eat. Dahlia thought Charles was a fool. She was also the wife of the future successor of the Kingston family. Naturally, Dahlia spent time investigating this woman who was pestering her brother-in-law. The more she investigated, the more she shook her head. Such a background. No wonder the woman was so scheming. Charles had a girlfriend and was about to get engaged. Dahlia didn't want Miranda to get in the way of this. Dahlia asked Richard to have a good talk with Charles. Although Charles was also a Kingston brother, most of the family matters, including the company's matters, were decided by Richard. Although Miranda's attention made Charles's vanity as a man extremely inflated, he never dared to disobey Richard. Some said that Charles was as timid as a mouse. By rights, there was no difference in how old man Kingston treated his two sons. But when Kenneth saw Charles always cowering, he could not help but sigh that he did not have much leadership talent. Richard was the opposite of his brother, strong and fair leader with a good head for business. When Charles was asked to fire Miranda, she was like a snake, forced into a corner, spraying venom without any scruples. She tried to plant doubts and discord in Charles's ears, telling him that as long as Richard was around, he would never be given any power in the family. She slandered Charles's future wife, saying she didn't care about him and was marrying into the Kingston family to be close to Richard and help him manage his affairs. Charles had no courage, no plans. How could he withstand Miranda's pressure? That night, Miranda brought him to the bar for some drinks. Spiked, Charles took Miranda to a hotel. The woman softly, greatly comforted the grievance of seemingly being bullied by his own family. Miranda's own father was outside keeping watch. He contacted old man Kingston to demand his son do right by his daughter. It was impossible for Kenneth and Richard to save the engagement. How could a young lady from a proper family marry such a man now? After that, Miranda got pregnant. Charles even tried to keep secret family and his newest potential bride. That engagement was also canceled when the potential bride's father learned about Miranda. Richard helplessly watched his brother be seduced by Miranda's lies. Dahlia was worried about Miranda. She felt that since Miranda knew that she and her husband had urged Charles to fire her, she would not let go of the matter, seek revenge on them. However, in the end, Dahlia did not manage to survive Miranda, and both Richard and Dahlia passed away young. That period of time was Violet's hell. Miranda was the one who had held her head high and lamented the misfortune of Violet's parents in front of others. But in secret, she and Charles had closed the door behind them and drunk their best wine in celebration. Richard and Dahlia had passed away early in the end, but in her life, Dahlia was simply Miranda's worst nightmare. In front of Charles, Miranda could be willful and unscrupulous. Even if Charles had doubts, Miranda needed only to say a few words to make him speechless. However, when Miranda faced Dahlia, she broke out in a cold sweat, stuttered, and felt guilty. There was no way to explain it with common sense. Deep down, Miranda probably had known that she'd met her match, Violet's mother. Was Dahlia's daughter also now going to be Miranda's undoing? When Miranda was dealing with Dahlia, she had to focus all her energy. She was often forced to bite her tongue around the woman. When Miranda was confronted by Dahlia, everyone could see her pale face and resentful eyes. Miranda had learned to cover up her emotions because of Dahlia. Now, this moment, her control was being tested. Charles was holding another woman in front of a crowd of onlookers. Miranda seemed to have returned to the past and suddenly exhausted. Dahlia, that you have come back to take revenge on me? Miranda thought. Well, unfortunately it's useless. No matter what, you won't come back to life. And your husband will watch me kick your precious daughter into hell to join you. Miranda barely hid a cruel smile and stood up, renewed vigor. She would not back down now. Miranda was not a quitter. She would fight until the end for what she believed was rightfully hers. Miranda faced her cheating husband. Charles, what are you doing? Who is this woman? She spoke calmly, but hoped that Charles could hear the deal in her voice. Charles was famously afraid of his wife, Miranda, counting on that fear right now. Episode 195. The child is mine. Miranda was confronting Charles, who was currently cradling his pregnant mistress in his arms. The woman had apparently gone into labor on the second floor of the hotel where today's press conference was being held. Charles always differed from his wife, letting her run the Kingston family and its businesses. He was famously afraid of his wife, and the crowd of bystanders eagerly looked on to see what Miranda was going to do. There were reporters and media personnel standing nearby, waiting to record and report on what happened. Miranda tried to retain a calm demeanor as she confronted her cheating husband. "Charles, who is this woman? What is going on?" The crowd expected the henpecked husband to cower and beg for forgiveness. To everyone's surprise, most of all Miranda's, not only was Charles seemingly no longer afraid of Miranda, he even glared at her with hatred. He held the woman in his arms as if he was cradling a treasure. Everyone was watching him make a spectacle of himself. But Charles didn't seem to care. For the sake of his unborn child, he seemed to have suddenly developed a backbone. "Miranda, I don't want to hide it from you anymore. Help me call an ambulance. The child is mine. If you don't help me save him, I'll never forgive you," Charles told his wife angrily. Hearing Charles's words, that the child belonged to him, the surrounding crowd looked respectfully sad and shocked. But no one would doubt they were secretly excited. The dirty secrets of wealthy were on display for free. It turned out that Charles, who had appeared to love and fear his wife, was a different sort altogether. His lover was pregnant. Why was Miranda still so arrogant? Miranda suddenly felt an inexplicable stab of fear, but she could only use anger to cover it up. The onlookers were whispering to each other and holding up their phones to record the scandalous love triangle of Miranda, Charles, and his pregnant mistress. To think they had all been here to see the scandal begin. What were the odds of that ever happening again? Just then, they all heard a crash and screams coming from further down the second-floor hallway. "What's going on now? Hurry, let's take a look." The crowd's shouts rang out as they rushed forward. Miranda stood frozen as the crowd of bystanders surged around her, everyone competing to see what the newest commotion was all about. Miranda, however, was still processing the news that Charles was defying her. Elizabeth, who had been so excited earlier as she waited for Chloe to bring her good news, was now extremely uneasy. Hearing all the shouting, she quietly left Logan's side to go see where her mother and everyone else had gone. She hurried up the stairs to the second-floor lobby and found her mother standing there. Elizabeth's appearance at her side seemed to snap Miranda out of her daze. "Where's Logan? Why didn't he accompany you?" Miranda grabbed Elizabeth as if she had grasped a lifeline. "Bring him here quickly." Cheating husband or not, as long as Logan stood with the Kingstons, no one would dare taunt them over Charles's disgrace. "Mom, listen. The children belong to Logan. How do you want me to explain it to him?" Elizabeth tried to reason with her. "What's there to explain?" Miranda answered Elizabeth impatiently. "We are also victims. Who would have known that Violet kept us all in the dark? The Alexanders want the children, so we can only hand them over. Who would dare to offend the Alexander family?" Elizabeth's eyes lit up. Miranda's words provided her with an idea. Tomorrow, she would go to the Smith Group offices to see Logan. She would explain the situation to him, just as her mother had. Elizabeth would place all the blame on Violet. As long as Logan had a conscience, he should be able to recognize who was the woman worthy of spending his life with. Satisfied with thoughts, Elizabeth finally noticed something wasn't right. Was that her father on the floor? And who was that woman he was with? "Mom, what's going on?" Elizabeth asked, still trying to understand what she was seeing. She saw Miranda's panicked face, and then a hotel staffer came running over to inform Charles that an ambulance would arrive soon. Elizabeth was even more confused. She wanted to go ask her father what was going on, but was pulled to the back of the crowd by her mother. Of course, Miranda was not willing to let her daughter, who was respectable and untarnished, interact with that circus. If Charles was not her daughter's father, Miranda would already be looking for someone to throw her brainless scumbag of a husband into the sea, the fish. "You are a proper lady. Don't worry about what's happening," Miranda told Elizabeth. At that moment, the woman with her father let out a loud shriek and grabbed her belly as if in pain. "Oh my God! Mom, is that woman pregnant? Why is Dad helping her? Elizabeth turned to Miranda in shock. A reporter in the crowd took it upon himself to answer Elizabeth's question before Miranda could. Kingston, you really don't know yet? You think that lady's belly got bigger all by itself? Can't you see that given your father's reaction, he's obviously the woman's babe father? Elizabeth was shocked. Could it be that there was some shady relationship between her father and this woman? Given the discussions of the people beside her, Elizabeth would be a fool if she did not realize what was going on. She'd always known her father to be a useless person, but Elizabeth did not think that a useless person would be able to amaze the world with a single feat. She stood beside her mother and looked at the man on the ground with sneer. How could her father do this to his own daughters? This was going to wind up in the gossip pages for sure. The last thing Elizabeth needed was for another blow to her career. She was already probably going to be ostracized by Smith Group because of Logan's little bastards, and now her own father was adding another bastard to the family tree. She felt no sympathy for her parents or the woman. Elizabeth only felt bad for herself. Why was this happening? Chloe. She needed her sister to fix this mess right now. Miranda asked her again to go look for Logan, but Elizabeth did not dare to speak to Logan yet. She felt that Logan's slightly raised lips full of distaste. She had decided to wait until tomorrow, when things were calmer, to confront Logan in his office. Right now, Elizabeth needed to find Chloe. She hadn't seen her since she left the presentation earlier. Mom, let's find Chloe first. We'll worry about Logan later. Sister had always been very smart. Elizabeth wanted to find Chloe so she could come up with a plan to fix this mess with their father. The scene around them was becoming more and more chaotic. Elizabeth did not know what would happen next. The pregnant woman was loaded onto a stretcher, and Charles held the woman's hands as she was quickly wheeled out to the ambulance and rushed to the hospital. Charles did not even look at Miranda or his daughter as he rushed past them. It was as if Charles had already severed ties with his old as he rushed headlong into his new one.